This is an endorsement from Hustler Magazine, Larry Flint, publisher, April of 84. It was mailed to me in D.C. I had been in a campaign to replace Congressman Dr. Larry McDonald when his plane went down August the 31st of 83, and Mr. Flint flew me out there and helped me in the campaign. He flew me out there twice in October to his home, and they were very nice to me, I'll have to say that. And my campaign funds, he helped me with that. They all came from the dealers in Las Vegas. And I'd never even been there, but you have to file the contributions with the government, so any of what I've said could be investigated and looked up. So I was writing the book about mind control murders, using it to kill people, program them, and they pay for the crime. Mr. Paddock had they autopsied him, and some of the others, like the Aurora, Colorado, James Holmes. There's so many of them that have happened, murders using mind control, but if it's invisible, so how do you prove it? But I'm shocked that the psychiatric community and the mental health, the doctors have covered this up, for they certainly know the difference. Mind control has nothing to do with mental illness. It's a mechanism used to kill. The motive is with the programmers. So I wanted to put this up. I started the Mesquite, Nevada, and Mesquite, Texas, out just outside Dallas, has a coexistence, if you want to say, in this, for lack of a better word. When I got the letter from the FBI, June the 23rd of 79, ongoing investigation, national security involved. It was issued by Judge Harper from Atlanta, William Harper. And I had moved into Laurelwood from Moonraker Apartments, and my ex-husband, came to live with us sporadically because a lot was being done to my children, putting sugar in the lifters of their car, and some bad things were happening, and it was scary, and the law didn't seem to be protecting us. So I took him up after I'd been there in a month. It was my lease, my deposit. I'd been there a month or so, and told her that he was coming back because his job took him out of town to be with us because of that. And it was perfectly all right with her. The lease was always in my name, never changed, never ordered to be changed. So the things continued to happen to us. And in early March of 80, my ex-husband called his sister Laura Childers Klein. She lived in Abilene, Texas. And it was okay for me to go up there and stay with her, out there and stay with her for a couple of weeks, and or a week, and try to find a job. If I did, I was going to move the boys out there. And so when I left, I called Laura to make sure. And when I was kept penniless just about. I'd done the book, and that cost me, etc., and I was trying to get it published. And all this is happening. So I got to Mesquite, Texas, next to Dallas, and stayed at the Days Inn. The next morning, I called Laura, and I said, I'm here in Texas, Mesquite. I'm on way up. It'll be just a few hours. I had just called her before I left Atlanta or Marietta. Now then, she suddenly had a change of heart almost overnight, and I'm no longer welcome. So I go back to Marietta, where my apartment is gone. My ex-husband was allowed to rent another apartment within the same complex, and at Laurelwood, where the manager I told, and everything was okay. She had allowed him, so this was all rigged. The FBI letter came at that time, all of it. So the only thing I can think of is my ex-husband owned a corporation, Grand National. It went bankrupt, and I know there was checks that he signed, and a lot of things went wrong there. It's my understanding, and there was a bankruptcy. So I don't know if they compromised him or not, because he worked for the CIA, and I'm pretty sure of that. So I don't know. As your guess is as good as mine. But that part you can't check out. But the bankruptcy you can. The fact that I got back there, my apartment was gone, and it was when my furniture is in his name, the lease, using my deposit. I have no key. So it was really bad. I'm allergic to chemicals. I have an immune disorder. And if I'm in a room that's toxic, got fumes, I either they fix it or I have to leave. So I'm going to leave it at that. It has to be something pretty toxic. When I got back, it was really bad. And I couldn't believe it had been allowed to happen. So I was so sick, I went to stay at the end of the month. I went to that's the end of March. I went to stay with Lois Pearson, who I had gone to computer school with, and her sister worked for doctors, and she worked as an aide, I believe, for doctors. But I went there, and it was the wrong move. The next morning, I woke up, and I knew something was bad, wrong. I went to West Paces Ferry Hospital there, down from the governor's mansion, and simply asked for a tox screen to see what had been given me and if it could be neutralized. Well, I didn't walk out of there, and it was never done, the tox screen. So I'm going to leave out till when my ex-husband came back from California, where he had never been. He came back and he moved me, but from the now, he signed the lease. It's in his name, remember. He comes back from California, and I'm in that condition where they said the urine analysis got contaminated, and you don't want to know what happened in there, because I shouldn't have been there. I went for a tox screen. I had done the book, and Dr. Beecham, Paul Beecham, is still in practice. He was the doctor there. He said to me, "You got to stop what you're saying about these doctors." And it was bad what was done to me there. A British lady, nurse, is really the one that saved my life. Now, my ex-husband came back, and he came in the room, and he said, "I'll take you out of here if you will come back and be my wife." Well, I wish I'd lied to him. I really do, after what happened to me. But he was a part of this anyway. I said no. He left me. When he came back, I'm leaving a lot out here, because they threatened me if I left, they'd have a male attendant give me intravenous, and I'm not going to tell you what they said. So that would have knocked my hopes of living out. I was already the tox screen not done. I'm going to go to this. I was stuffed in a car, Lionel Dempsey. I was kidnapped and brought to Moulton, Alabama, in 41 at age 2. I put all this up. So it's who I am. This is the reason this all happened to me, not just the book. But I was stuffed in the car and carried across the state line in that condition with antifreeze, and I didn't know what it was at the time. Now then, this is, I went in on April Fool Day, which was a Tuesday. This is Saturday, before Easter the next day. And she dropped me off at Crestwood, and would not let me go on to her. First of all, they wouldn't let me go back to my apartment. My children know nothing about this, knew nothing about it, what happened to me or anything. And when she dropped me off at, I can't think of the name of it right now. It's easy to look up, in Huntsville. And I asked for the tox screen again. It hadn't been done. And this was scary as heck in there with what happened to me. They wouldn't get Carol Johnson, who was a friend of mine, and nothing. So anyway, they didn't do any of the tests that were supposed to be done there. Now, I went in on Saturday night. The next Wednesday, which is about 9 days later, the tox screen was finally done. And it came back, get this, it's supposed to go to Alabama, criminal lab, or a lab in Alabama. It didn't. It come back from Atlanta, Georgia, the crime lab. They had typed my book. A young girl had answered an ad. I was trying to go back to work and get money to survive on and get it retyped, and she was going to retype it. And she gave me a number, and she said, if you want to call and see how it's going, just call me. So I called, and it was the Georgia Crime Lab in Atlanta. And she said, yes, I work for them, but I'm typing your book. So there you go. Okay, now then, my ex-husband, I was never allowed to go back home. I only saw my kids a couple of times. I was afraid to tell them what had happened to me. And my ex-husband was the one that went in and got from Bill Goodson, the doctor. These are